Hello there, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Talk Music Talk with Boice. I am Boice, and this is my podcast that you are listening to. If this happens to be your very first time checking it out, Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, both established and emerging, singers, singer-songwriters, music therapists, music journalists, and on this new episode, I am so excited about it. I had the pleasure of speaking to indie singer-songwriter Rue Snider. He is on the eve of his third full-length album coming out on July 27th. It is entitled City Living. I have heard it. It is great. He is based in Brooklyn, like myself. Also, we share the fact that we are both from the Pittsburgh area. We talk about that in the interview. One of my favorite conversations. What can I say about Rue? Such a nice guy with an interesting life story. It's very inspiring. He goes from how he got better as an artist to the sacrifices he's made to live his dream of making music. He also talks about getting sober, the making of his music, of city living. Great conversation. After it, you will hear 2 songs from the new album, not even out yet. Don't Lose Heart. Single is out now, and you are going to hear the TMT premiere of Tripping on a Raft with Girls right after the conversation. One of my favorite songs, Tripping on a Raft with Girls. And before we get to the interview, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out to my Strand event here in New York City. It was with the 33 and a third authors, the series of books that look like mini CDs. That was on July 20th. So thanks to everyone for coming out to the live podcast. I will be airing that on Talk Music Talk, the podcast that you are listening to, coming very, very soon. But here it is, without further ado, my conversation with Rue Snider. Enjoy. Before we started recording, we were talking about pop music and somehow if it's too melodic, right? If it's, or people feeling...
Yeah, I feel like there's this
to own that up, right?
Yeah. It's like it's shameful somehow to love a good melody, and I'm just never going to feel that way.
Yes, which leads me to, on your Instagram,
yeah,
today you posted one of my favorite artists, Billy Joel.
Billy Joel,
who probably gets that, like he's too pop, too and he has not entered hipsterdom. I
mean, like if I could write one song in my life that's as good as like Billy Joel's worst song. You know what I mean? Just like, I don't know. I don't understand why people are opposed to Billy Joel. I don't know why they think it's weird. I got to see him at Madison Square Garden in January because he's doing like one show a month. It's like the 40th. You saw it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little weird. Mm-hmm. I felt like he should have been eating a bowl of spaghetti on stage. Like it would have been appropriate. Like I was just like, this is a little bit like it was just that kind of experience. Like, like at one point, Foreigner came out, and like Foreigner were playing. They were like the special guest, and he was just kind of like standing there dancing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if Billy Joel was eating a bowl of spaghetti while Foreigner was playing at Madison Square Garden in the middle of his set, it would make perfect sense. Okay. So the show was a little weird for me.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Was that your first time seeing it?
It was the first time. I mean, let's be honest, it's the only time. On the way there. Mm-hmm. I was in the subway and I was like, I'm going to go to this thing and I'm going to love this concert so goddamn much that I'm going to have to go see Billy Joel every month and
super
for the rest of my life. And after the show, I was like, no, I think that I'm really glad I went. I think it's just one. But he played Vienna and like, I just think that's the best Billy Joel song ever.
See, I wish I would have seen him. I saw him like a couple months into it.
Yeah.
And I think now...
like years ago. Like
and he was trying to spin like the microphone stand and all that.
Oh, he's still doing that shit.
Okay.
That's the thing. It's weird. Like the stage rotates.
Yeah.
And at first you're so like enamored. It's like, that's Billy Joel. Mm-hmm. And I would be like watching him. And then, you know, talk to your friend, you clap. You know, you're looking around and there's the monitors. I'm looking at the monitors. I'm looking at the stage. And then I'm like... Wait, wasn't he facing the other way? So it was about 7 songs in before I realized, they're flipping the piano like really every song. Super weird.
Slow revolution.
Yeah, that kind of... And then when he gets up and he's like about to bust out of the suit and he's playing with the microphone, it's weird.
Yeah. Did he do a deep set? Because when I saw him, he like did a lot of like deep album cuts.
He did, but it was... Yes. I mean, he's only got 12 records.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not that many songs, right?
No. But there were some people who were like, okay, I want to hear Only the Good Die Young. Like, you could tell there were people not into...
I don't have time for those kind of people.
Yeah, me neither.
I just can't.
Yeah. So when did you get into, like, really melodic, like Billy Joel, that type of thing?
I think I
grew up of pop.
Well, I grew up in a household where we had records, right? But it was weird because, like... my mom grew up listening to 45s. I've found these 45s. I put them in like real sleeves because they were all like stuck together.
Yeah.
And things. It's like, Mom, we got to deal with this. And she was like, that's cool. But we had lots of records growing up. But like my parents didn't really buy records. You know what I mean? Like there were the records that were there.
Okay.
And there were things like Air Supply's Greatest Hits. I mean, that was a big one. I remember like things like by Elvis Presley and stuff like that. Really melodic music. So I grew up listening to that stuff, and like it never occurred to me that Air Supply was cheesy. And to this day, I adore Air Supply. I mean, like Making Love Out of Nothing at All is like I just can't. I mean, that's like, like I quit drinking. I used to be a big drinker. I mean, I would like shut the lights off and like have like a half a bottle of whiskey and like sit in the floor in a dark room and listen to Making Love Out of Nothing at All over and over and just cry. Like to me, it's like beautiful and romantic and sad. And people are like, "What the fuck?" But I don't know. So I love that kind of like big melodies. I mean, I love like early U2 and that kind of stuff. I mean, REM is my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
I just, like you let the singer-songwriter thing, people with ideas and stuff to say and words that matter, but also like, singing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not literature. You know what I mean? We're not writing books. So I've always loved melodic music.
Yeah. When did you start writing stuff and playing an instrument? When did you start playing an instrument?
My dad was an elementary school music teacher.
Okay. So early?
Yeah. So I was like playing. I mean, there were like cello. I took cello at school. My dad was a trumpet player, so I took like trumpet lessons and cello lessons and piano lessons and eventually voice lessons. But I didn't. You resist that stuff when you're a kid.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to play piano. I don't know why. I can't play piano now. Like I resisted music theory. I resisted all the stuff.
Yeah.
So that was part of my life, but it was just kind of like the kid who's like forced to play baseball. I was like, I don't want to play baseball, Dad. I don't know why.
Yeah. Did you not want to play at all, or did you just want to be able to skip to proficiency where you could make music that you heard?
I don't know what it was. I think it was just like I didn't want to be told what to do.
Okay.
But it was a good thing that it was part of my life, and I was always encouraged. My family was always very supportive, maybe to a fault. I don't know, because like I'm a grown-ass man, like playing rock and roll music. It's cool, though. But they're very supportive, and so I always believed that I could do something that wasn't conventional, right? Yeah. I never felt pressure to be a doctor or whatever, which I think is great. I have friends who are doctors and lawyers and all these things. Those are important professions.
They save lives.
They're just like, it's just like so boring to me. Yeah. So I'm really glad that I had that support, and I knew that growing up. And I always I remember like mowing the grass, my neighbor's grass when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or something, and like coming up with lyrics and like singing songs. But it was never a real thing. I mean, it was just like, there were like notebooks of things, but it was all kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until much later that I started taking music very seriously. It's funny because there are so many people now writing songs who are really young that I have deep respect for. It's a guy named Sammy Brew out of Utah. I think he's like 15 or 16 years. Have you heard this guy?
No.
He's fantastic. Writing really honest songs from his perspective, and they're not shitty, like you'd listen to him. It's like a 16-year-old. Like Lorde put out her first record when she was like 19. I think she writes most of that stuff. And I'm like, man, if the stuff that I wrote when I was like 19 or even like 25, it was really bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just really impressed by people today who are creating work who are young. And I always thought like I wanted creative success, quote unquote success, as a younger person. Like I did lots of things. I made films. I tried to do stuff, but it's like it took me a long time to grow up and to like find a voice and a perspective.
Okay.
Right. So it's like I'm really grateful that there aren't a dozen horrible records, you know, from when I like grew up in the church and was like thinking Jesus was God and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm really glad that those don't exist, like next to like Amy Grant, you know, at like the Christian bookstore. That'd be really bad.
So you have no hidden
music
history?
No, you know, there's one record that I made that is like, we'll call it out of print. You know what I mean? But, you know, it is what it is. So it was like maybe in 2011, I was working for like a popsicle company in Brooklyn, and it was like a seasonal job. So you worked like 7 months out of the year, 7 days a week. There was and I made a bunch of money, and there was no time to spend any of the money.
Yeah.
So it got to like October, and I was like, I can like stay in New York and work a part-time job and spend all of this money that I have, or I can like go on vacation, or I can like start to take music seriously. So I made my first EP at this guy's home studio. It's called Losing Her. And then I put that out in March of 2012 by myself. And it was like I was going to go back to work for this food business, this popsicle company. And we came at odds when we're negotiating like the contract. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to work for these guys this year. So I was unemployed living in New York City, like having just recorded an album that I was like putting out an EP. I knew nothing about the music industry, right? I just had like passion and, you know, balls, I guess. The best advice that I've ever been given ever in my life, the guy, his name is Kevin Kendrick, who recorded, engineered, produced, played most of the instruments on that record. He looked at me like after we finished it, and he goes, how much do you practice a day?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, like I play for like 45 minutes or an hour, like I play my songs. And he goes, okay. He goes, you are not good enough. Okay. And I was like, what? And he's like, you need to be playing for like 4 hours a day minimum. He said,
this is guitar or what?
Playing guitar, yeah.
Okay.
He said, we made this record, it's pretty good. He said people are going to hear it and they're going to come see you and be like, the guy made a decent enough EP, but he plays a shitty show, it's not worth it. So it was really hard for me to hear that at the time. I knew that I had growth. Growth was important. Yeah. But I was like, oh man, this is harsh. This is a very serious thing to say. But I found myself thinking I was going to go back to this seasonal job, and I was unemployed. So I spent the next 6 months, like actually literally doing this. I would get up in the morning, I would go to the park. I was living in Greenpoint. I would go to McGolrick Park, and I would play every day for hours. Like play all my songs. Yeah. Then I would go home and like practice like guitar a little bit. And then I would go to an open mic every single night, 7 days a week for 6 months, and just like meet people and embarrass myself and play really poorly. And like at each open mic, I would identify. After a couple weeks, you identify the person, the guy or girl who was like maybe the best, you know, or like the alpha there. Yeah. And I would just be like, okay, so my goal is to get that motherfucker to stay in the room for like the first verse of my song. Okay. Right? So you keep playing and playing and playing. Then after like a month, like, oh, that guy just stayed in the room. Like he walked out to get a beer and then he walked back in and he listened to my verse, got to the chorus and he left. But I was like, okay, he was in the room. He's seen me like 5 or 6 times. Didn't take me seriously. And like, so that was what I did for 6 months. And like, you know, met other songwriters, started to see what people were doing, like, got comfortable playing in front of people in New York, and then started booking my own shows and going to other people's shows and just like figuring it out. You know?
How did you know you were better if before you didn't know you weren't that good?
Well, you just do it. You just learn by doing, right? And you get better with performance. I mean, there's just a lot of fear that has to like be suppressed, that you have to control, right? Learning to control the fear, like learning to like, for me it was like, I mean, sometimes I couldn't play the songs, you know what I mean? Like get through the goddamn song, like, or like, you know, play a B minor chord. It's like, I don't know how to do this in front of people. Like my fingers won't go in this position. So you get to the point where like you can actually play the chords on your songs in front of people. I mean, it's like, it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, for me, this was what it was like. I was just like, I love music. I want to play music. I don't have a job. I'm getting like $400 a week in unemployment. Like I can just pay my rent and like eat a little bit. I'm just going to do this as long as I can, because to me it was like, a gift from the universe.
Yeah.
People were like, "Oh my God, you're unemployed. How are you getting by? What do you do? Can I buy you lunch?" And I was like, "Yes, you can buy me lunch." But like, I feel like I don't believe in God, but I think that something has given me this opportunity that's like a beautiful thing, and I still believe that because I don't know what would have happened with my career. I don't think I would have a career if I hadn't had that like 6 months to just figure shit out and like. It was awesome, and then write a lot of songs, during that time. And,
dude, I started the podcast when I was unemployed.
You did,
yes.
So you know how that works.
Yes, I don't think I would have. I mean, because the time it took to do the podcast, to start everything, it's like I had unlimited time, and I could interview anybody in any moment. It's like I really don't think if I was employed.
Yep.
Because once I was employed, it was like now I got to manage my time to do the podcast and work. So I totally get that.
It's cool.
Yeah, and.
Something that became clear to me during that time, maybe you've seen this, I don't know. There are a lot of people in New York City who are exceptional at what they do.
Yeah.
People who are better musicians than I will ever be, than I would even try to be. Mm-hmm. People I know personally who nobody is ever going to know.
Yeah.
For two reasons. Because they don't have ambition and because they have a fallback plan.
Yeah, yeah.
I learned during that 6 months that the only way I was ever going to be able to be successful on my terms with music was to have no fallback plan.
Yeah.
Because if there was something easier to do, I would do it.
Do it.
Right? So that's been the case. Which is really hard, but I think it's the only way. I have friends who are like, I got to save enough money in 6 months. I'm going to go on the road. I'm going to do this. I'm like, God bless you, but probably you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Also, what you did too. I mean, you set up every night. I'm going to practice this many hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to open mic.
Yeah.
You have to have actions that you can take.
Yeah.
That you just can't
you just can't do it.
Eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
It requires a ridiculous discipline. And the thing is, I've never been a disciplined person. I've never been athletic. I've never taken my body too seriously.
Yeah.
I've never I really like to watch television now that there's Netflix and I can watch the whole. I mean, I haven't watched the second season of Glow because I know when I put that on, it's 8 hours. I'm going to watch the whole thing. That's just the kind of guy I am.
Yeah.
So it's you just have to really. I remember a woman broke up with me in the mid somewhere in the 2000s, and she was just you just don't have any ambition.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, but my ambition is to love you, which I really believed at the time. But I didn't understand that at the time, and then a few years later, I was like, oh, this is what she meant. I didn't have any ambition, for myself, you know.
But even then, when people say ambition, it can mean you going to a day job, and
absolutely.
It wouldn't even include your music career.
And I mean, ambition could be a guy who likes to smoke pot and play video games. I mean, if you take it seriously, you just can't fall into stuff. Life is too short. If your thing is to get really high and play video games, and you want to do that, and you work at the 7-Eleven so you can go home and fucking play video games and smoke pot, I think that's great because you have.
That's your plan.
Do what you want with your life. It's just when people are I don't know, maybe someday I'll do something. I'm just going to get high and play this video game. I'm like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Well, not fuck you. Okay, do what you want. But I think that's unfortunate.
Someday becomes never.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about creative pursuits. It's not about high-powered jobs. It's about intention and then going after that intention with everything.
Yeah. So during that period when you were learning and becoming a better right? Did you fuck with your self-esteem any? Because I know for me, being unemployed, even though I was unemployed and I was doing something, this podcast, it still is because we're so judged by if you're working.
That's been a constant thing that comes and goes, right? It's it's difficult as I grew in my career, and people don't understand what creative people do. Yeah. So people are like, "Oh, you haven't been working," and I'm like, well, I just wrote a record. You know what I mean? I did it all day, every day. I made demos of 20 songs. We're going to go record 14 in Nashville. I have been working really hard. People are like, yeah, but you haven't been working. And I'm like, okay, you need to go now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, and that gets in your head sometimes, like other people's voices, right? Whenever things don't go the way you want. During that time, that specific 6 months in 2012, I think that I was just so cocksure. You know what I mean? I was just like, this is what I'm doing, like, and I kind of had to like block things out. It's almost like a horse with the blinders on; they don't see, you know, the people on the side. Yeah.
So after that period, you have the EP. Did you feel comfortable even releasing the EP because you had grown?
Yeah. Oh, I put it out in March. I mean, like I put it out. The thing, it was weird because like I met this community of musicians in New York. Like I don't want to say musicians, I would say songwriters. It took me a long time to start to network with like musicians, capital M, right? But everybody had a record, but like, and I'd be like, I have a record, and nobody really heard it. Like it was hard to get because they all knew each other, and I was coming in afterwards. So when it's like, here's my thing, and they're just like, sit down, kid. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm older than you, and it's just like it was weird. So that album kind of like, it just kind of was. And it's weird because it's 5 songs, and like 3 of the songs I'm super proud of and love, although a couple of them I would give them some lyric touches, and 2 of them I'm like, So 2 of them I've kind of rewritten, and one was on my last record and one is on my new record. I don't know if people would be able to identify the one on this record or not. But for me, I was like, I wrote this song and I can do it much better. I was the baby songwriter, you know? But people, as time has gone on, a lot of people like this early EP, and it's weird to me because I think I've done so much better work, but people like the like hard on sleeve earnestness, like kind of like warbly voiced, like guy who's just like figuring it out. I'm like, we made it in an apartment in Park Slope, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Well, how'd you get to New York? Because we're both from
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh-esque, right? Yeah. I'm from Clairton.
You're from Clairton?
Yeah, Clairton proper.
I'm from Butler, yeah.
So I'm like, what is it? So like 35, 40 minutes from the city?
Yeah. Butler's like 45 minutes. Yeah, both of us, yeah. You know, New York City for me, I mean, like, how long have you been here?
Like a little over a decade now.
Yeah, I've just hit 13 years.
Okay.
So it was like...
But you went to school there?
I went to the University of Pittsburgh.
Okay, same here.
Philosophy and English lit. Yeah, you went to the university.
Communications, yeah.
Right on. We're both very marketable. That communications, for a minute it was like, communications, this is everything.
Yeah. I remember my advisor told me, well, you know, you really should be going to Point Park. You're in the wrong school for this. I'm like, wait, it's my first semester. What am I not leaving
like,
now?
God damn it.
Like, I'm just going to have to deal with this. What do you mean I'm at the wrong school?
It's like, I'm not even going to, like, I wouldn't have even changed this because, like, the registrar's office was so fucking far away. It's like, I'm not walking down there. It's hot out. I got to smoke cigarettes over here and drink beers. No, I'm not going. I'll just stay at this school. Forget it. You know, New York City was like, I don't know, it was like the land of Oz or something, right? It was like, my sister moved here 6 years before I did. She's since moved to Boston, which I don't understand why anyone would move to Boston. I'm sorry. But I started coming here to see her, and I was big drunk at the time, and I was just like taken by everything that it was. I mean, at the time, I mean, in like 1999, 2000, I mean, like the East Village was so different. I mean, I would come here and go out to like 5 bars, you know, in one night, and none of them had TVs. And I was just like, there's no fucking TVs. And like at the time, like everything was $5. It was like $5. I'll take like a rum and soda, it's $5. I'll take like a beer, it's $5. And then you would go outside and smoke cigarettes and like meet people from all over the world. And I had never experienced this. Pittsburgh is so segregated. You know what I mean? And it's so like, just the conversations I would have there were weird. And here people are just like talking about ideas and politics. And I mean, I'm meeting people from like Poland, you know what I mean, on the street. I'm talking to some guy from Russia, and he's not like a Russian who lives in New York. He's like a guy from Russia who's like leaving in like 4 hours. He's like, I'm just drinking because my plane's not for 4 hours. You know, stuff like that. And I was like, I've never been around this kind of energy before. So it became a goal, like, how do I get there? And, you know, just made that happen.
And how did you get there?
There was a U-Haul.
Okay.
You know. No, I was married at the time. We moved to Philadelphia first, and then we moved back to Pittsburgh.
Okay, so you dragged your wife with you too?
At the time, yeah. We
dragged?
No, it was kind of like, well, we were in transition. I mean, we kind of came here separately, and then she ended up moving here. And that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful person. I was a terrible person, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
But I came here in 2005 and lived in Queens for 6 months in Jackson Heights. Mm-hmm. And not the Jackson Heights with, like, the Indian food, like, further out.
Yeah.
And then moved to the East Village with her in a 250-square-foot apartment with a 25-pound dog, which is partly why our relationship fell apart, because that's just crazy town. But yeah, so that was that. And then I spent, like, 6 years in New York just, like living and breathing before I really embraced music. I mean, I was writing songs and I was like fucking around with the guitar, but I mean, New York, I mean, it's like quicksand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it can swallow you up, and like, you just can't, you can't take your eye off of your goal because the city will swallow you.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember De La Vega in the East Village?
No.
There was this artist named De La Vega.
Okay.
And he did all this like art with words, right? Mm-hmm. And he was on St. Mark's, I think between First and A, and eventually got priced out. I don't even know if he's in the city anymore, but I would see his art all the time. My friend lived next door. I used to go talk to him. But one of the things that he had, one of the sayings that he had that were all over the place were, the city will try to steal your dream. Don't let it.
Yeah.
So it's funny because all these years later, I'm about to put out a record called City Living. And the chorus of the city will try to steal your dream, but like De La Vega said, don't let it.
Yeah.
So it's like that was such an important thing to me, like being surrounded by artists like that, and that kind of stuff seeps into your brain to the point that however many years later, it was that like 2005, like now in 2018, I'm putting out a record called City Living that's inspired by the art of this man, that I would see all the time. So New York for me was just magical. I got lost in it. I almost lost myself. Okay. Like it becomes. I mean, I lost a marriage, a relationship. I lost a couple other relationships. I could have died. I mean, I was behaving like an insane person.
Yeah. So you really didn't have a direction.
I did. I came here as a filmmaker. I had made several short films, and I think I was going to try to get them into festivals.
Okay.
We did a big screening in Pittsburgh right before I left at like the Lowe's movie theater or whatever, and
That's a big deal for people who don't know, right?
Yeah, it's like a big thing. Yeah. I mean, we rented it, you know what I mean? But like hundreds of people came, whatever. And but I came here and just got like, it's like a kid in a candy store. It's just like, well, I could work on this. I need to go get a job so I have some money, and I need to get to the East Village by midnight because then I have 4 hours to fucking drink. You know what I mean? So it just became this crazy thing, and like you're sitting in a bar, you're sitting in Tile Bar at 2:00 in the morning on a Tuesday, talking to someone who was like went to high school with Patti Smith. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. People are just telling. I don't know. I heard so many stories. Like, who knows what was true and who was bullshitting?
Yeah.
But it's like, you just meet all these interesting people. You know what I mean? Like Nora Jones was sitting in the corner. And it's like, oh my God, that's Nora Jones. Don't make eye contact. She clearly wants me to look away. And I'd never experienced anything like that. Like now it seems so regular, but it was like my mind was like constantly. My friends would pull me aside and be like, "Listen, you gotta stop freaking out whenever we like are around famous people."
Okay. Oh, you would actually?
I'd just be like, "What the hell?" And like, I remember I met this woman, and she had like lived with Bob Weir, and like the Grateful Dead for me was like this huge thing. And I was just like, "Oh my God!" And that was the night my friend was like, "Listen, if we're gonna hang out, we're gonna meet people with no people, and like it's a thing, and like you got to be cooler than that." And I was like, "But did she live with Bob Weir?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's okay." So there was that, But eventually, the music kind of became the thing.
How did it become the thing if you were sort of a mess, if we may say?
Oh, I was a mess.
Okay, so how does a mess start focusing on your dream?
Because I think it's weird the way fear works. I did everything. I mean, I've worked so many. I've never worked construction, but I've worked like so many jobs. I've worked at offices. I've worked for like every possible level of the food industry. I've worked in retail. I've managed like all different types of groups of people. I've done so many things. Trying to find a place, been in so many relationships that I thought would like fill me up. Like, this is what I need to do. I need to work this bullshit job so I can love this person and provide a life for them, because this is what I'm here to do. Yeah. And the whole time, it's like all I ever wanted to do from the time I was like 12 years old was be in a fucking band. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just like fear kept me from doing it. And I thought I wasn't good enough, and I thought I didn't have a voice that mattered. It's interesting, listening to like early Whiskey Town and Heartbreaker by Ryan Adams. I remember hearing Heartbreaker by Ryan Adams and just being like, I mean, I was a big Bob Dylan fan and I understood folk music. But when I heard that Heartbreaker record, I was just like, this fucking guy is just talking about being in love with women and being sad and like just telling his story. And some of it's so specific to like New York and location stuff that like there's no way people could even know what he's talking about some of the times unless they've like been there. But it's so good and it's connecting with so many people. And I realized specifically through that record, but then as I started to like investigate other people making music at the time, like, oh, my voice matters. I've always wanted, I hope someday I get to, I mean, Ryan Adams was like around the East Village whenever I was there, and I would like talk to him and stuff, but he was like on heroin and I was fucking loaded. So it was like, it didn't matter. But I was just like, I hope someday I just get to be like, the reason that I felt like I had a voice was because of Heartbreaker, because like it's just so exciting to me. So that kind of made me realize that, like, having done all of these things to try to like fill myself up and not understanding yet like intention or any kind of like Buddhist ideas of like detachment, and this kind of stuff, just kind of being lost, growing up really religious and like having my head filled with a lot of nonsense and not really being in therapy yet or like sorting out who I was. I just kept doing stuff and realized it didn't work and didn't make me happy. And I was pursuing creative things that weren't going anywhere. But I always was writing songs. Bad songs. But always writing songs. And then when I realized that my voice mattered, I started to take it really seriously and be like, what lay the songs out, like, what is worth people hearing here? Like, throw away these 50. So these 4 songs maybe, and then just trying to work it out. Okay.
Were you thinking that what you were writing that nobody would want to hear?
I felt like it wasn't
authentic.
It was like, it was like trite. It was like unimportant. It was like, I think so many people feel this way. You know what I mean? Like, that what they have to say isn't important or like won't connect with it. But the thing is, there's also this weird thing that went in my mind. I imagine other people experience it, where you think like it's important that it connects with other people, as if that has something to do with it, which it really doesn't. The exercise of like telling your story and creating something is what it is. Hopefully it does mean something to someone else, and if you're honest and authentic to yourself, hopefully it will connect with people. But that can't be why you do it.
I want to connect,
right?
Like, there has to be something beforehand. And that sets you free into being able to get to the EP part. Okay. So what was the whole process of like, okay, now I got to find I got to find a studio, I got to find...
Right. Well, for me, it was like... it was learning to be a performer and like learning to play. So I started playing in like a folk trio because I felt like I wasn't good enough to play my own. Eventually, I realized I was never going to be able to be successful unless I learned how to do it on my own. And we toured for a while. We just started touring in like 2013. 2013. We just started going out of town and playing shows. Somebody told me, I was like at a Thanksgiving dinner somewhere in New York, and some friend of mine was like, well, what you got to do is you got to play 180 shows a year, and like 75% of those have to be outside of New York. I don't know where he got that information. He was very intoxicated. He probably was just making it up. But I just used that as a benchmark. I was like, I need to play 180 shows, and 75% of them need to be outside of New York.
Okay.
So we started in 2013, and that little group played for a little bit, and then I just kept doing it. Mm-hmm. Played like 100 shows in 2014, like 120 shows in 2015, like 160 or 170 shows in 2016. Just touring by myself and like learning how to do it, and like constantly just moving past fear, right?
And the fear was
the fear of, I mean, all of the fears, right? Like the fear of not having a stable career, the fear of like not having like any savings, the fear of like being unstable with geography. Like I literally lived in a van for like a year and a half. I mean, I have friends all over the country, and I stay with people, and I would go back and stay with my parents, but I like rented out my apartment. You know, like I sublet my apartment, and I drove around and like slept in my van in like Walmart parking lots and like fucking played 150 shows, you know, and just like, but the thing is, when you're doing this all by yourself and you're like booking everything by yourself, eventually a manager came on who was a friend, you know what I mean? And it was just the two of us. Yeah. But for a long time, I mean, I was doing everything. And so you play 150 shows a year. And a normal band, what would that be, like 4 months or something, like 4.5 months? Yeah. So maybe it's 5 months, because you have some days off, and then you like and you take like a month and then a month off, and then like you do 6 weeks and you take 2 weeks off. So I was just on the road for like a year, and there might be like a week with no shows, and then you play like 7 shows, and there's like 10 days with no shows, because like I'm doing it myself, and I'm booking it. I started out by booking like the first 4 months, and then every day I'm waking up, brushing my teeth at the Walmart. I'm going to the Starbucks because I've got the free like coffee card, you know, so I get the smallest coffee, and then I sit there for like, depending on whether I have a show, 5 to 10 hours, booking shows all day, hop in the van, either go to a movie and then go find a place to sleep, or drive however many hours to the gig, maybe go to a movie if I'm early, go to the gig, play the show, and then drive somewhere else. So this was like what I did constantly. Yeah. So there's tons of fear, because there's so many places that like things happening that don't make sense. Being in America, understanding the way this country is and the way some people think, I'm steeped in this like tremendous amount of privilege because I'm a white male. Yeah. But I mean, I would be in situations that I felt uncomfortable myself. And I started to like understand empathy and like try to like appreciate other people, and other people's stories, and like what it's like for people that aren't like me, you know, strip away a lot of the artifice and a lot of the things that I like, things that I thought were true. But we have this, especially I assume people like me, we see this in the world, right? Yeah. Tend to think that like the way we see the world is the way the world is, just because the world caters to us. Yeah. But it's absolutely bullshit.
Many different worlds.
Yeah, there's many different worlds. And you get out and start to see this and go, oh, and it makes you a better person. Yeah. Right? So then there's all of these fears of like, where am I going to be, and how am I going to make this happen, and like, does anyone want to hear the music, and I think what I have to say is valuable. Is it valuable? You know, you're constantly battling with yourself. And then there's things that are happening to me where I'm like, am I a good person? Like, how have I lived my life? Like, what have I done that's awful? Like, how have I treated women? How have I treated minorities? You know what I mean? What have I done to like bring people into my life who are different? Like, and there's this constant thing. So I'm like sleeping in the van at a Walmart. You know what I mean? Haven't brushed my teeth, haven't taken a shower in a week, and I'm like, and I don't even like have any friends who are like aren't white people that I'm going to see for like a month. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm a terrible person. So this is the kind of stuff that's going on, right? And then you're driving.
You have so much time to think.
Because you're just thinking and you're in your head. And then I'm like going through the South, you know, and then you'd like sit at a bar drinking a glass of soda, and some guy would come up and be like, "You're from New York City." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I got guns. What do you think about guns?" You know, it's just like, this is so weird. And you have to
look like everybody else.
Right. Yeah. And you just have to learn how stuff. But the thing is, I learned that like a lot of these people are like, you know, people are awesome a lot of the time, you know, and like we God, I don't want to get into it too much, but you know, my opinion is that there's this like group at the top. I'm going to call them like the oligarchy, like this 1% that is trying to like separate us, and they do a really fucking good job of it. When we really need to be like looking up and being like, income inequality, this is a big problem. We're fighting amongst ourselves, so we don't recognize it, right? Because when I started to talk to some of these like rednecks in bars, and be like, this guy's not a bad guy. Like, he has some fucked up ideas about guns, but like, this guy's not gonna like go out and kill anybody, and like his kids aren't gonna kill anybody, and he's got like 100 acres, you know, in Oklahoma, and he likes to go out on his golf cart and like shoot cans. Whatever. I think it's weird, but like, there's just so many different ways of living that I didn't understand. And as like a person who'd been like dug in New York for a decade, I was like, you gotta be like this. And I was like, oh, it's not only like the whiteness that is an inaccurate representation of like the world and the way that I saw it, but it's actually also my like liberalism and my sort of like urban perspective. You know what I mean? That like everything has to get checked. And I learned that on the road, and this is playing into my like fears and my growth, and it's all just happening at the same time. So it's like I don't know.
How do you stay motivated during that time to keep doing it? I mean, because there had to have been shows where you go and like there's one person there.
Oh, a lot of them are bad. Because I mean, I'm playing dive bars and coffee shops. Like, you know, I pretty much went from
background noise for people while they drank.
Yeah, I'm going from here to Kansas City, like, and then I did a big loop down all through Florida, and I would just do this loop, right? And then I eventually did one tour to California, but basically it was here to Kansas City and like everywhere in between. Playing music in front of people is awesome. You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, I played a show in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there were literally 2 people and the bartender. And I was like, I'm going to do this show. Like, you guys, you're here. The guy was like a big guy in NASCAR. He was really cool. His wife was beautiful. And we went in this back room, and the bartender was sober. It was really cool because I'd been sober for, I don't know, like a year and a half or something. And the bartender's like, you know, you need a beer. And I was like, no. He's like, are you sober? And I was like, yeah. So I had this whole moment with the bartender. So then there's nobody in this place. So I go in the back and play my show, and this couple watches me, and the bartender comes back and watches me. I mean, it was dumb, right? There's 3 people. But like, I think they gave me like $50. They're just like, here you go. And they were like really touched by the music, you know? They were like, I just did my show, you know, as if it was like Madison Square Garden. I mean, you just go out and do the show.
Which is how you should do it. Because it's important to the people to see you. That they get a good show.
Exactly.
Yeah, they shouldn't get a half-assed show because you're like, oh, well, there's no one here. Yeah.
So for me, it's like playing music in front of people is so fucking cool, and it's such a privilege and like an honor, and like I can't believe that I am able to do it, that I get the opportunity. And like I was very aware, like the 4 years that I was on the road, like really all the time, I was like, this is my opportunity to tour. Like everyone's always like, what's going to happen in the future? Like where are you going to be? Like when are you going to get to tour for real? Like when are you going to tour with a rock band? When are you going to I'd love to come see you with a rock. And I was like, this is me playing music. Like this is the shot. It's not if I get to like fucking open for Bright Eyes. You know what I mean? It's like I'm playing some dive bar in, you know, like Norman, Oklahoma. And Mark, who's running sound and owns that place, like loves my music, and he's giving me $100, you know. And last time he gave me $50, and he wants me to play for 3 hours, and it's full of smoke. But like, this is me on tour, and this is me playing for these people in this bar who are having a good time, even though they're playing pool and kind of disturbing the quiet songs. But it's like that was it. So I really, it's almost like method acting or something. It's like you just become it. It's like I'm like, I don't say rock star, but it's like I am a touring musician, and like this is what I do for a living. Like this is what I do. So it was exciting. So that's what motivated me. You know, it's just like it was like I get to go play shows. Like I have friends in New York who are like writing songs 10 times better than mine, but they're not playing them for anyone, and I'm out playing my songs in front of all these people, and like they remember me from last time. You know what I mean? When I was here 4 months ago. It's cool.
Making fans, one person at
a time? Like literally one person at a time.
Because I know, you know, and I think something to playing solo, because there's so many people I interview, and like they only can do a show because they have a full band, like, you know, once every 2-3 months.
Right.
And like
that's where I'm at now in New York. And
how do you grow by doing these shows? You
don't.
Just dozens and dozens of shows, back-to-back shows.
I'm at the point now where like I've put out like 2 records and then like I think 4 or 5 EPs, and we're about to put out the 3rd record, which is a big album that we went to Nashville and made at this place called The Bomb Shelter. There's this guy Andrea Tokic who is amazing, and he records to tape. Yeah. He did like one of the Langhorne Slim records, The Spirit Moves. He did the first Alabama Shakes record. He engineered that and co-produced it. Went platinum. So we did this whole like very organic kind of thing with like real instruments, you know. Made this 80s rock record, but like in this kind of old-fashioned way, you know. So now I'm in New York, and I've been playing rock shows. I've done 2. We're going to do a big one on July 26th to launch the album. But it's like finding the right guys to hire, because it's not really like, if I was like 22, it would be like I would be a band, you know, you get like a gang. Yeah. But now it's kind of like finding guys and like putting together as much money as you can to like get the best guys, so you can do a couple of rehearsals and go out and do like a kick-ass show. It's a very different way of approaching it than I ever expected. But I don't have the time to like, you know what I mean? And also I'm at the point in my career where like I'm not famous, but I know what I want. I know where I'm going, and I know how I want things to be. So it's not as, it's very collaborative, like in the studio. Like when I meet a guy like Andrea Tokic, I'm like, and he says, maybe we should add a guitar solo here. Like I'm like, okay, man. Yeah, I'm not gonna fight you. But when it comes to the live show, I want the people to like have fun, and I want them to contribute ideas. But like, this is the record, and we're kind of going in this direction. Okay. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not writing songs and like opening doors for it. They already have a blueprint, you know? Yeah. So it's a different kind of thing. But the guys I've been playing with have been amazing. We've done 2 fucking sick rock shows, and that's like the most fun I've had ever. Yeah. Like playing these songs that the last show we did at Rockwood, we did about 4 or 5 songs that I've played for years. Solo, and I was just like always waiting to hear him on the records they have a rock. Then, like having a guy like ripping a solo next to you, I'm just like, this is amazing.
So for the new album, like what were your intentions going into this album that maybe you didn't have for the other ones?
It's funny, I wrote a song kind of I met this woman in Columbus, Ohio, who had just like, I met her and I thought she was really beautiful, and I was like looking at her on Facebook, whatever, and then it's like she was married, and I was like, oh, she's married. And then I played a show with her a second time, and she showed up at the show, and she's like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, things great, how are you? She's like, I just got divorced. And I was like, oh, she didn't actually get divorced. Her husband had like left her that day. Okay. Since she's got divorced, I assume. Yeah. But like we just kind of hung out that night. She's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, you want to go swimming? And I was like, swimming? It was like 1 a.m, and there was like lightning and thunder. And she's like, yeah. So she had this house by a quarry, full of water. So we like go to this quarry, and it's like 10 feet into the air above the water, and you can't see the water. It's like black below, and it's like thundering and lightning. And like we start making out, and I was like, this is crazy. And then she just like took her clothes off and dove in the water. Yeah. She's like, are you coming? And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So
like if I have to.
Yeah, so what are you gonna do? So I left Columbus, and then like you know, I kept checking up on her to see how she was, because I knew she was going through a thing, you know. And I called her like one Sunday afternoon, or texted her something like, what's going on? She's like, I'm with like 4 of my girlfriends, and we just like dropped a bunch of acid, and we're going to go float in the quarry on rafts. Okay. And I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah. So I wrote this song called Tripping on a Raft with Girls, right? And it was just like this exercise. I was just like, oh, this would be funny. Like, and I sent it to her. I was like, I wrote this about you. She's like, that's funny. And I showed it to my manager, and I was just like, what do you think about this? It was like, I made this demo, and she's like, that's hilarious, but whatever. So a year later, I was writing this record, and I was supposed to spend a week in Nashville at my friend's house, and we had like a falling out. So I went back to my parents' house. So I'm like in my childhood bedroom, like working on songs that would become city living. And I called my manager, and she's like, I'd written this whole record. It was all country songs, like an entire, like 14, 15 songs. It was all like country songs, like Americana. She's like, you ever going to do anything with that song, Tripping on a Raft with Girls? And I was like, oh shit. And I like scrapped all of the songs, and then wrote a record around that tune. I was like, if this is a pop song, if this is my idea of a pop song, what will fit with this? Okay. And how can I make something that's like summery and like upbeat? That's what I wanted. So I took that one song, which came from this experience of jumping off this cliff in an electrical storm, and like listening to this woman talk about dropping acid, and then how can I make something fun that's me, and that this song will like make sense in that context. And then when we went to finish the record, we almost dropped that song and didn't put it on, and I was like, I'm really glad we did.
Yeah. So you scraped that other album because this was more like how you wanted to feel.
Yeah. But, well, I am grateful to her for telling me. For pushing, I think she brought up Tripping on a Raft with the Girls as a joke, but it just made me realize, like, I had done 2 records that were, I would call them squarely Americana, like country rock, and I'm proud of them. They're cool, you know. I didn't know how to make records at the time, so they're a little long. Like, I would like to put them out on vinyl and take some of the songs off and redistribute the songs, remix them, whatever. Maybe not remix, remaster them, but I was like, I've been doing this Americana thing, and I've been going to like folk events, like this thing called Folk Alliance, and I've been going to like Americana Fest and these things, and I was like, not really being embraced by that community. Lots of friends, but people weren't really responding to the music, and I was like, I felt like maybe I was making like this folk rock music because that's as big as I could dream. Like I thought like this, I can imagine this in my brain. Yeah. But I went to do a test, like a test single at the bomb shelter before we committed to a full record, because that's goddamn expensive. And that's when I met Andrea Tokic, and we did 3 songs. We ended up doing 3 songs, but we did this song called "Speak My Mind," which I had written as a protest to motherfucking Donald Trump. Yeah. And I went in and I was like, Andre, he had the song, and I was like, so this one I think is just like a little protest song, acoustic guitar, maybe some like light drums, and like a pedal steel. Yeah. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, okay, that's not how I hear it at all. And then he's like, can you trust me with this? And he kind of described to me his vision, and he wanted to make it into this like Beatles-esque kind of Abbey Road sort of thing with like tack piano and like Nashville guitar, which I'd never even heard. I didn't even know what that was. And like just this kind of big, fun, carnival, like Fellini-esque kind of sound in this like very serious lyrical piece. And for me, everything had always been lyric driven, and it had never really been about the music. It had been like the music is supporting the lyrics. Maybe because I grew up listening to goddamn Christian rock, which is all just a con, right? Yeah. But this, like, I realized, like, I can do whatever I want with the music. So we did this little EP, and that was in like December, and then in March it came out. That was March of, I think, last year. And then I went to Nashville in, I think, April to write this next record, and I hadn't really realized yet how big I could dream, right? And then when Amanda, my manager, pointed that out and said, what are you going to do with this song? It just like clicked in my brain. Oh, I'm like holding myself back. Like my job is to write these songs and then not be afraid to collaborate with people who can imagine them even bigger than I can, which is exactly what happened. So I gave those guys like very specific notes, but the notes that I gave them were like, imagine a rooftop in Brooklyn at 3 a.m. after like a party, and like people are half naked, and like you're sort of drunk, and you're like watching the people start to go to work the next day on the street below. You know what I mean? Like I'm sending them these descriptions, and I'm like, I want the record to sound like this. And they were like, I think we'll use synthesizers. Got it. So it was that kind of thing, but it was exciting for me to realize that like I could make music that I didn't have to hear it in my head when I wrote it. You know what I mean? That like we could talk about it and it'd be like, oh, what about that? That's a great idea. Okay. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
And how is making music, or how has it changed from not being sober to being sober?
It's better. I never really wrote songs sober, but drunk. But being drunk sapped me of my ambition. I mean, I was active alcoholic for 21 years. I mean, I drank hard. Yeah, I should be dead. Yeah, you know, like I don't know why my liver didn't get damaged. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why somebody didn't beat the shit out of me in the East Village for shit that I would say to people. Like it should have happened. I don't know why. But the music definitely suffered because of my ability. I mean, because even during that 6-month period where I was like, you know, very structured and doing things, like I was still making time for booze every night, right? Like, and I hadn't, like, eventually I realized, like, oh, I can't drink around people because people don't understand.
Yeah.
And I eventually was like taking a 6-pack and like a bottle of wine and like a half a bottle of bourbon in my apartment, and I would just sit there and be like, which is it going to be tonight? You know, shut off the phone. But at that time I was just drinking around people like it was normal. And I think that damaged relationships, like business relationships, damaged potential business relationships, damaged friendships. So the booze didn't so much impact the songwriting, except that I wrote less songs because I was like less available. Yeah. But it definitely compromised every facet of my interactions with people, and it kept me from knowing myself. So I was only able to get so far with the songs. You know what I mean? Like I think the songs are, and the songs that I'm writing now that like will be hopefully on the next record, I think are the best things that I've ever written, and they're really personal. But I'm able to like shamelessly access that, and like not second guess myself. Whereas when I was really drunk, I'd be like, I don't know if this is any good, or like if I should be saying this, because I just wasn't in touch with my emotions. Therapy and sobriety, man.
So what made you like? How did like? What's the thing that stopped you from living that life?
I woke up one morning after nothing really eventful happening the day before. It was a Monday morning. I was working in bars. I was working a brunch shift on Saturday and Sunday, and then I was going and working at another bar Saturday and Sunday night.
So you were alcoholic and you were working.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And that Sunday, I had started drinking at about 2 at the first job, and then I got to the other job at 4, because we don't have to drive in New York City, kids. Don't get the wrong idea. It's just fucking trains and walking. And I got there, and I started drinking, and then I remember closing there at about midnight. It was like a restaurant bar. I remember closing at 12 or 12:30, and I remember doing about 5 or 6 shots with like the chef as we were leaving. Like we were drinking like, I think it was tequila. We were doing like tequila shots. But I had been drinking since like 2. Yeah. And I remember calling a friend of mine who's still friends with me, thank God. I mean, we've been on and off, but she's forgiven me. I mean, I remember talking to her on the phone for like maybe 3 hours. And I don't know what I said. I remember crying and like sitting in some doorway, but nothing really out of the ordinary for a Sunday night. But I woke up on a Monday morning, that Monday morning, and I was still pretty drunk. And I opened my eyes and I was staring at the ceiling. And I realized, like, this is exactly how I'm going to live for the rest of my life, and I'm going to die in my 50s or 60s or before, or I'm going to stop drinking. And if I'm going to stop drinking, I have to do it right fucking now. And I walked out of my room, and I said to my roommate, I think I have to quit drinking. I think I have to do it right now. And she gave me a hug, and she's like, I think that's the best thing you've ever thought. And she's like, whatever you need, I'll do whatever you need. And then she didn't, and she kept booze in the house. No, she's wonderful. No, she's very supportive. And that was that. And then I was supposed to have like 4 days off, so I was like from the bar. Yeah. And my manager called me up the next morning, and she's like, do you want to work happy hour? And this was at a bar at the Seaport, and it was like a 4-hour shift, and it was like always at least $250. And like you're just like making vodka and sodas for like douchebags. You mean like make vodka and sodas for douchebags for 4 hours, and you get $250 at least. Yeah. Because those guys will tip like to impress. I'm like, this woman is not impressed by the fact that you just gave me $5 for a vodka and soda, but I'll take it. You know what I mean? So it was like that. But so my second day of sobriety, it hadn't even been 48 hours. I like went to this bar and I was like, so this is it. Like I'm either going to like not drink this shift because I drank every single shift. I'm either not going to or I am. And I made it through the shift, and I was like, okay, one foot in front of the other. Okay.
And how long has that been?
It's been over 3 years.
Okay. Excellent, dude.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. And it's weird because I'm like, I'm just starting to get my emotions back. It's anybody that's in recovery, it's like you get this. Like I started drinking when I was 19, so when I got sober, it's like I was emotionally kind of still a 19-year-old. I'm like crying about stupid stuff, you know, like fighting with this wonderful woman I was dating, and like she's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. And my therapist is like, you're 19. But finally I've started to get things together, and I'm writing songs now where I'm like an adult, and I can start to, I'm excited to like, what are the next 30 songs where I'm like actually processing things as like a man instead of a teenager, because I'm really writing from this very kind of adolescent space. I was experiencing life kind of as an adolescent for like years and years. So it's exciting to start to be able to say things that are more just to have a different perspective for me, it's exciting.
Because you have access.
People will they'll hear my record in 3 years. They'll be like, he's still writing about girls and it's just fucking sad. What's up? I don't understand. It's like a disco record, but it's fucking sad.
Cars and girls like Springsteen, right?
Oh, exactly, right? I don't know.
Dude, that's great. So you got the albums coming out July 27th?
It comes out July 27th. Yes. The release show is at Berlin on Avenue A, July 26th. That's going to be awesome. There's tickets on Eventbrite, which is kind of cool. And then my Facebook, all of my social media is Music by Rue. This is interesting. I do, since I've been in New York for a while, and like, you know, you're working, and then the money starts to go, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I started doing background work on films and TV, just like to pick up some cash. And I was at this amusement park in Long Island the other day with this like young lady. She was 11. Yeah. And she was so great. She made fun of me the entire time. And so we're talking about like her and me and stuff. And so she asked if I was on social media. And I was like, yeah, all my social media is Music by Rue. And she started to laugh. Yeah. And I was like, what are you laughing? She's like, that's just so ridiculous. And I was like, what? She's like, it's just so regular. Why would you pick something so regular? I'm like, well, people have to like remember it has to be simple, and it's like it's like branding, you know. She's like, it's just so dumb. She's 11, but now she follows me on Instagram, so I win, you know. If you hear this, Jasmine, I win. Halfway through the day, I started giving it back to her, and she stopped and looked at me, and she's like, can you not be sarcastic for 1 minute? And I was like, I love her. This 11-year-old is so great. If this is what the youth of America are like, there's hope.
Jasmine's the future.
So it's Music by Rue. That's everything across the board. Tickets for the show are available everywhere. I'm playing with Ian Mellencamp and RFA from Philadelphia. I think it's going to be a ridiculously good rock and roll show. I'm very excited about that.
And plans post-album?
We're putting that together. I mean, they'll be touring in the fall. I'm not sure exactly the shape it's going to be.
But Music by Rue.
.com. I'm the living in the van, like going around playing solo thing. It's a little bit. I want to be a little more intentional, you know? But this is what I do, so it's like, that's a living. Yeah. It's an honest living, and I'm proud of the stuff I do, so we're just going to keep going.
Okay. This was great.
Yeah, man.
I love this. This is going to be one of my favorite interviews, man.
Oh, it's so much fun. I'm just so grateful to you for this opportunity, and I'm excited to be part of this, you know, what you're building.
Yeah. Thank you for doing
really
this.
Really honored to be part of that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Did I leave anything out?
I don't think so. I just think, you know, I would say what's important is like honor yourself, live with intention, and don't take any shit from anybody, and fucking vote. We're in America. Fucking vote. You have to vote. Our government is fucked, and we're the only people that can change it. We're putting goddamn children in cages, and we can't allow this. So vote. Go out and vote. Speak your mind. Speak truth to power. Because if you don't, who the fuck is gonna? Yes. I'll be doing it.
Yes. Sounds like a great ending. Really.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
It was a challenging year, to say the least. Xenophobic warmonger and oligarchs, ACLU amicus briefs. Decency can't dance alone, so take to the streets. Raise our voices loud, they've got to go. Politicians on the take, police trafficking and hate. Everyday citizens stand up to the dark, like Lucy Burns and Rosa Parks. Speak truth to power, don't lose heart. Boundaries irrelevant as children die, who can't escape bullets. American weapons, Chicago to Aleppo fire. Military industrial complex, the oligarchs traffic in fear to divide. Raise our voices loud, they've got to go. Politicians on the tape, police trafficking and hate. Everyday citizens stand up to the dark, like Lucy Burns and Rosa Parks. Speak truth to power, don't lose heart. Raise our voices loud, they've got to go. Politicians on the take, police trafficking and hate. Everyday citizens stand up to the dark, like Lucy Burns and Rosa Parks. Speak truth to power, don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. Grass outside is greener than I've ever seen. It crushes underneath our toes, it stains our naked feet. By the quarry, she's inflating. No debating. Lie down, and listen closely to the sound. The melody that slowly starts to close their door. Conscious of the lives that came before that. I'll be tripping on a raft with girls, the soft skin like a summer wind. We'll let go and forget about this world. Regression with intention, conscious of the water, Sinatra, bikini daydream, floating. The water and the air become a part of us. We all ascend, 3 hours of beauty and nothing to discuss. Soon the shore, content and peaceful. Feel like different people. Lie down and listen closely to the sound. The melody that slowly starts to roar is their door. Conscious of the lives that came before and before that. I'll be tripping on a raft with girls, the soft skin like a summer wind. We'll let go and forget about this world. Regression with intention, conscious of the water, Sinatra, bikini daydream. Conscious of the water, Sinatra, bikini daydream. Conscious of the water, Sinatra, bikini daydream.
And there you have it. Tripping on a Raft with Girls from Rue Snider and Don't Lose Heart. both from City Living, out July 27th. It is great. You should get it. The release party in New York City is on July 26th at Berlin. Head on over to musicbyrue.com for more information and to get tickets. I will be at the release party, so say hello if you see me. I am online at talkmusictalk.com. You can also find me on social media at This Is Boice. And if you enjoyed this episode with Rue, I would appreciate it if you could share it on social media. Maybe you could screenshot the episode on your phone and tag me when you do. You can also leave a 5-star rating wherever you like to listen to your podcast, especially on iTunes. This all helps to grow the Talk Music Talk audience. There is also a TMT app. That's right, wherever you like to get your apps, and it is free. You can also stream the podcast pretty much everywhere like Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio. You can just search for Talk Music Talk. Also, you can find the podcast on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/This Is Boice. I say all of this because my dream is to be able to do this podcast full time, and maybe you can help me out. You can help by sharing the podcast. Also, if you happen to know any advertisers or sponsors, or if that happens to be you, please email me at boice@talkmusictalk.com and let's talk about it. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, and there will be a next time, this one's for you, Liz.